Good morning, good morning. Hi, everybody. It is April 15th, and this is Truth Bomb. My name is Jay Scott.
Sandy, nice to see
This
ya.
is this is Sandy, and this is Truth Bomb, folks. Let's get ready. All right, all right, all right.
Mugs
Mugs
up.
up.
Mugs up, everyone.
Mugs up. A new week.
Mugs up.
A new
New
week.
week.
I had a really
Woo-hoo.
good. I had a good weekend because we finally had really warm weather here in Montana, and I got outside, got a little sun. Still can't tell because,
What's warm?
well, 72.
Oh, it was
Yeah.
like the real warm. It was
Yep.
85 here. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
I
not
mean, that's
like
warm,
summer.
but yeah.
I'm like, summertime.
Yeah.
Aren't
No,
we
it's
ready
good.
for summertime? That helps us. The sun really does help. You need that vitamin D. You need the outside. You need the air. You need all of those things. So um, I guess I'm setting it up for your topic today because we need a
Yeah,
good climate.
we do. So we're going to be talking today about geoengineering, which is climate change, a method that people are thinking about using to deal with climate change, and a little bit more about the Baltimore Bridge collapse investigation that reopens today. So, all right, let's jump in. Let's jump
We're
in. All
jumping
right.
in. All right.
Okay. So, oh, come on, wake up. Okay. Well, geoengineering is basically lots of things, I guess, but basically they are trying to make the clouds brighter, and they are seeding the clouds with salt crystals into the atmosphere. And what this does is it leads to brighter clouds that reflect sunlight. And the risks are numerous. Yeah, let's look at a few of these. So, the first
I know.
outdoor
That's a lot.
climate global warming um, was launched this is actually about 2 weeks ago now, I think. And when they launched it, they launched these big like sprayers off of the deck of this decommissioned aircraft carrier in San Francisco. And here's the kicker, though: the experiment, which organizers didn't widely announce to avoid public backlash, it marks the acceleration of this contentious field known as solar radiation modification. So basically, they're trying to modify nature to bend its will to what they want. So I got a little bit of an issue with that right off the bat. What do you think, Sandy? Should we be messing with Mother Nature?
No, we should not. No, we shouldn't. No. I mean, I like brighter clouds. Okay. Don't get me wrong. I want a sunnier day. However, we don't know what it's really going to do, the ramifications of it. So I
Right.
am not for it. No,
No,
no.
no. We don't know what the hell it's going to do. That's the whole point of this. It's like
Right.
what could what things could happen that they don't even know. It says that this was led by the University of Washington, and it now is opening up the ethics of doing this, of messing with Mother Nature. And
Well,
again, what they're
my
doing is,
question is, how does that affect climate change, though? Like,
well,
is it
it's supposed to
supposed to
cool
be
the planet.
helping it?
It's supposed to
Is that
cool the
their
planet.
goal? Is they think they're helping somehow?
Yeah, it's supposed to cool the planet off so that we don't have, the effects of a
Pull the
heating.
planet off.
Yeah,
Huh.
because basically the idea is that the salt crystals reflect. It's a brighter, so it reflects the sunshine back up into space and doesn't penetrate the Earth, and so the Earth then cools down, and
Right.
because even like a point 0.5 degrees or whatever is causing a lot of the storms, the terrible hurricanes, the rising oceans, melting, or icebergs, and the whole nine yards. But you know, one, Mother Nature is so fragile. Like 1 degree off or a half a degree off, and you plunge us into like a polar winter or something crazy, right? Now there's too much reflection, and we're in the ice age. I mean, don't mess with that.
No.
No, don't
I
mess with
don't want to
that.
be cold, people.
No,
Okay, just
Sandy doesn't want
I
to be cold.
my goal
Come
is
on.
to move south, more south, where it's warmer, more
Well,
of the months out of the year. I
I
don't
don't know
know
where
what
you're gonna move because
in the
if the
world.
whole Earth is plunged into a polar environment, uh,
Exactly.
you're gonna
Uh,
have to go. You're gonna have to go to the moon, maybe.
I'm voting no on that. Voting no. So,
Let's vote
so
no. But
here's the
here's
thing.
another.
Of course, yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say here's the so there's that. There's this let's messing with Mother Nature, but basically they kept it under wraps because they knew that if they talked about this a lot, that there'd be
There's
pushback,
backlash.
and they literally just this is why I brought this article up. Not so much for the climate change thing because I'm not going to get into that argument whether it's there or not, uh, but this is what happens with the government. You know they they do things and they don't let us know. I mean, potentially catastrophic things like this, like oh, we don't want to tell anybody because it might bring up a little controversy. We're gonna have to have a few social media posts that we don't want to answer. No, this is not the kind of country I want to live in that does stuff like this. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. Pun intended. Um,
Tip of the iceberg.
Tip of
We
the
don't. I
iceberg.
no. I don't want any icebergs coming to Virginia. I just
Oh
don't.
yeah, they would
It's
be
not.
floating up on the beach there.
Yeah. No. What it? Uh,
I wish I had
this
some
is
more
why it
pictures of
is so
this thing.
irritating that I mean already. Okay, so what happened to pollution? What happened to the pollution problem? What happened to
Right.
climate change is caused by pollution of big industry corporations, that's pushing out all of this bad air, the air quality is polluted. What happened to that argument? Where'd that go? That's what I
Right.
want
That's
to know.
all. Yeah.
Where'd it
Yeah.
go? Because it
It's
didn't
still
end.
there. Right. It's
It
still
didn't
there.
end. We didn't shut down the power plants. We didn't shut down the paper industry. We didn't shut down all of these things. There's where you start, is where man is making the problem. How about we do it in a preventative way of man making the problem, so we shut down those things down versus uh, trying to make a man-made solution, because the
Yeah.
solution would sort itself out and wouldn't cost us a dime.
Right.
Wouldn't cost us anything if we shut those things down, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I'll
Just
just on the other side, little bit. It's a controversial situation, right? So I assume you're talking one of the things maybe is coal production or burning coal, um, fossil fuels, maybe.
I wasn't really talking about those.
What you talking about? What you talking about?
I'm more talking about, okay, so near me there's a huge power plant out in the water. You can see the gases of it. You can see everything that it's burning out there. And then there's a big old paper plant, not too far away. You smell the sulfur. You smell all the stuff that they're pushing out. They're burning into the air. And so
I
that's
see
what
what you're
I'm
saying.
talking about.
Yeah. You're
I'm
okay.
talking
So yeah.
about
So you're
the
talking
actual
about
pollution
pure
of the
pollution, like
chemicals.
right,
Right.
chemicals in the sky that we breathe and so
Not
on. Well, and
sure
that
how I feel about coal. I don't know enough about it. And I'm just going to be honest. I don't know enough about how coal burning affects the atmosphere. Um, that's
yeah.
something I'd have to investigate. But I do know
Well,
a
and
paper
it's
plant, a power plant, and all of that is burning chemicals along with those properties, right?
right. Yeah. No, and that's why it all of it, uh, according to some, I will say it that way, cause the planet to warm up, which is really the issue, one of the big issues, right? And so again, yeah, I agree with you. Lots of detail in that, but basically, coal and carbon that gets burnt, from our gasoline and coal fire plants emit CO2, which then allow gives us sort of this greenhouse gas effect, which holds the heat into the earth. right? So that's heating the earth up. If so, some of the ways that
Right.
people are trying to do
Right.
this is to let that
Right.
let all that CO2 like out somehow, but it stays like it floats.
Mhm.
I don't know, but basically it warms up the earth, right? So that's causing that. But it's
Well,
controversial
it
because
brings.
one the scientific evidence. Some people say it's
Mhm.
overwhelming. I
Right.
just don't know what to believe anymore. I don't believe my government, unfortunately, or governments of the world. And I would love to believe scientists, but the C virus kind of taught me I can't trust that either. So I don't know what to think about that. But you're right, like the pollutants that we can just see, the chemicals and the pollutants are just unhealthy to breathe. And
Right.
to so this is back to the toxins that we basically don't we take for granted. And if we want to live a radically healthy life so that we can be strong and stand up to
Right.
tyranny, basically,
Yeah.
right? We have to
Yeah.
detoxify ourselves as much as we can, and our livers do an amazing job, don't they? Don't they, Sandy? But they can only do so much, right? If they're just inundated,
Always.
and then you
Mhm.
throw in all the toxins that we consume, like
Right.
voluntarily, uh, then our poor little livers and bodies are working on overtime. So I don't know. It all kind of relates together. I mean, we bring these stories up because we're really trying to come to a point here where we're talking about what are the things going on in the world that we're either not paying attention to or we're not being told the truth. And that's why we
Right.
called it Truth Bomb, because we're like, wow, look at all this stuff. I mean, we could come up with 10 articles every day of all these things that are a little like, what's going on there? I don't really get
Right.
that. Or things being exposed. Like, wow, they did this whole cloud seeding thing. They really didn't tell anybody until it was over. Now, they did have, to be fair, they did have a Washington Post reporter that was on the ship and was going to do this story, but that all came out after they shot the crystals up into the sky. And they're still, apparently, they're still, they're going to do more of these. They're planning to do more of these in different places. This was just a test of this, but that means that they're doing this, and probably doing a lot more that we have no idea about.
Right.
I can understand. I can understand when it talks about national defense that they can't tell everybody. We can't tell everybody about our national security issues and our military buildup and blah blah blah. I get that, but when you're going to
Right.
mess with the planet, you're not going to tell us about it. No.
Right. Well, just like
No.
before the eclipse, there are so many people that went online and said that they saw chemtrails everywhere before the eclipse. And of course, that's the problem is like they have been doing chemtrail. I mean, I've noticed it. I drive across country all the time. So I notice chemtrails because you'll have a nice, clear sky. And then all of a sudden there's like little lines just going across and you're going, okay, what are they doing? And I know that farmers use, crop dusting. They do stuff, but it's not like that. I mean,
It's
it's
not
way
like
up in
that.
the sky. Yeah, it's way
Yeah, the
up.
crop
And so,
dusting is done right down close to the crops.
right. And
Um,
so you're like, what is happening? What are they doing? So it,
well,
it
that's
does bring into question what is going on.
when I
And
read this
right before
story,
the
I
eclipse,
I
everybody
thought
said
about
stuff.
this. I thought about the
Mhm.
chemtrail issue, and again, to be fair, I'm on the fence about chemtrails. I mean, it's a little conspiracy-ish. That definitely
It's
falls in the that falls in
conspiracy-ish.
the conspiracy-ish, because people are like, oh, chemtrails, chemtrails, blah blah blah, and you
There are
just Google
chemtrails.
that. You Google that, and you'll get a bunch of information. So here's what I think about this.
You'll get a
Um,
bunch of misinformation.
you'll get a bunch of crazy stuff. Yeah, you'll get a bunch of
Because
misinformation or whatever.
nobody actually knows except for the ones that are actually doing it. And
Well,
they're
okay,
obviously not sharing with us what they are doing, exactly coming to the point of what you're talking
right.
about. They're not sharing with us what they are doing. So what are they doing?
Well, okay, so
What's in it?
before I brought this article up, what would you describe as chemtrails? What is it? What do you think chemtrails are? What do you think what do you think's happening there when you see chemtrails?
Now, I'm not talking about airplane that just went overhead
Right,
because it's about to land at the airport. Okay. I'm not talking about a trail because you could see that too. Because I'm by an
right,
airport and I can see,
right. So
when
we
they emit,
know. I mean, this is the thing. Let me just
there's
I'll
a
point that out.
difference.
We know that when jet airplanes go and the fuel comes out or the exhaust comes out, it
Right.
crystallizes in the cold air and it causes this looks like a little cloud, right? And
Right.
so we know that that happens. And then this, but a lot of people think that every time they see that, it's a chemtrail, and
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. No,
where I'm
I'm
like, well,
not talking
and
about that.
we can't
No.
really tell the difference, can we, between the good
I
ones and the bad ones?
well, it depends on. I think the ones I see that are suspect, I guess you'd say, are the ones that cross over each other, or many lines. Like there's many lines, and then there's a crossover line. So that means that it's been done pretty repeatedly in a short time manner because they're so close together and they're at the same level, right? Like they're not way up or way, So
Right.
anyway, again, since I do not know the science to it and I do not know what they're actually doing, that's the question. Because like the study you just brought up, they didn't tell anybody because they knew they'd get a backlash. Well, what else are they doing that they're not telling us that they know that they'll get a backlash? So
Right.
that brings into uh, finding out what the truth is. But will we find out what the truth
Well,
is
I
the question.
think the articles like this, or not articles, situations like this that they did, it just feeds it
It
feeds the
feeds the conspiracy.
conspiracy, because
Yes.
this in a way, I don't know what this would look like. Like first of all, they shot the crystals up from a ship, so it's not coming from an airplane. But I assume they could do the same thing with an airplane. But I'm wondering why they didn't, why they're shooting it up. I don't know. Obviously, probably some technical reason why. But one, you're okay. Let me assume. My thought is when I'm seeing chemtrails, I've heard of stories where they've seeded the clouds before. Like this isn't kind of new. You've heard about this, putting some sort of chemical or salt crystals into the atmosphere from a plane, right? That
Right.
could look maybe like a chemtrail. They call them chemtrails, I assume, because they think like, well, we're spewing chemicals into the sky for some reason. Now, the conspiracy theorists are like, they're really trying to, poison us and kill us off, weed us out, like weed out
Right.
those
You
humans.
can you can go
Okay,
down a
I'm
rabbit
not going down there,
hole.
but I'm
Yeah, you
throwing that
could go
out
down
there.
a major rabbit hole that it's filled with some type of mood affector to
Oh
dumb us
yeah.
down. I've heard that
Oh,
one.
how
That
about, yeah, to fertility, to
and to
have make us
activate our yeah,
infertile,
and something
all of this
to
stuff.
activate
What
the
do you guys think?
nanobots or whatever.
Oh, nanobots. What do you guys think? Somebody chime in here. Like what are these
Anybody on
chemtrails?
here? What do y'all think? Really,
Leave us a
seriously?
comment if you're
Because,
watching this on the replay. We want to know
because
what you guys think about these
yeah,
chemtrails.
I mean,
What the heck
here's
are
the
they?
problem, and this is why this show is called Truth Bomb. Again, one, what is the truth in it? Two, what can we do about it? What can we do about it? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Unless we have a big, huge protest, I'm not sure what we could do about it because we don't. You can't protest on something that you don't know about.
Right.
You can't
You
protest
could just you'd be
something
walking down the street with a flag
after
and a sign, and it would just be blank, like a white sign.
like
Like, what are you
we're
protesting against? Everything. Protesting against everything.
protesting against whatever you're doing.
Anything. You write it down. Let like put a little line there and say, "Come over here. What are we protesting against?" I don't know. Oh my god,
Well,
that's
that's
funny.
why I'm like a protest. I'm not sure a protest, and we'll talk about that on another show sometime. I think that that's a good subject.
Okay.
Is do protests actually work?
Right.
And do they? Is a question. But at the same time, if you don't know about it, you can't protest against it. So
Right.
I
I
mean,
mean, I think what we can do
after the
is
fact
that
is kind of too late. Like,
if you look out your
well,
window and you see a bunch of those crisscross ones, like you said, you put your gas mask on and then you go outside.
right.
I think that's what we could
I
do.
think that's what we should do. But see, that's why it's so important to get out into nature. It's amazing how this planet was created to almost clean itself. It's like a self, cleaning oven, sort of.
Yeah.
Like everything can clean itself. Like the trees help us to purify the air. The trees. So if you start cutting, that's why people have problems about cutting all those trees down in a forest and all the, you know, I mean, if we keep on building these houses and these industrial places and these strip malls and just cutting all the trees down, that it has an effect on our planet because those trees help to purify and give us the CO2 that we need, you know? So here it is, like that's why it's important to really pay attention to some of those things. It really is. Like my favorite place to go in a week is the botanical gardens because it's like it's landscaped but it's also natural. It's like they don't cut any trees down that they don't have to unless, you know, they're diseased or whatever. And I go sit on a stump that they had to cut it down, and they tell you why they cut it down. I think it's great. They have conscientious people there going, okay, yes, you saw that we had to cut this tree down, and it's because it had this disease. You know, they're
Hmm.
really
Yeah.
good about that. And I go out there to get the best CO2 I can.
What do
You
they call
know,
it? What do they call it when you like hike in the forest? I want to like. I remember like Japan would call it this and something bathing, like air bathing. No,
hmm, I
what
don't
do they
know.
call it? There's something where they call it like it's a name, but it's something like that. Anybody know that? It's like
Anybody know?
it's
Put it
not
in the
air
comments.
bathing. It's something bathing. Basically, you're out in nature and you're being bathed by all of the
Well, that's right.
CO2, all the
That's why it's
oxygen.
so important to get out in nature. You know, there's a practice, you know, it's grounding. You know, they call it grounding. You go out there, you take your shoes off, and you stand in the grass. You get some grounding. And of course, I always say I go to the beach and I get some sanding. So I get some
Some
sanding done.
sanding, some grounding, some
Sand,
sanding.
ground.
It's all good.
Yeah, because it's because there is an energy to it. We are created beings to be in sync with the other created things around us. You know, it all has energy, and
We're all energy.
we are, and so whether that's faith based or not, if God made it like that, so you know,
Yeah.
I totally love taking my shoes off and walking in the grass, you know, and a lot of people don't. You wouldn't believe how many people don't do that. They never
Right.
take
They
their
would
shoes
never. Yeah, they would
off.
never be caught dead
Ever.
taking their shoes off. All right,
Yeah,
I'm
they're
gonna
like,
Google
"Oh
this.
my
I
God,
think
you
it's
take your shoes
called.
off?" I'm like, yeah. And
I think
see,
it's called forest bathing. Okay, it's called
wait,
forest bathing,
forest bathing sounds
and
beautiful.
it is a Japanese type of thing.
Love it.
Forest bathing provides a defense against the pangs of anxiety. Oh yeah, I would agree with that.
It's true. It's so true. If you, I don't know about you. Whenever I would have a stressful situation and needed to think out something, I'd either go, I would go by a body of water. So water is my peace, calming thing. So whether I go to the beach, and of course, when I lived in Kansas, there was no beach really, but there was a beach at Shawnee Mission Park,
At a
right?
lake,
So I
a
would
little
go
lake beach.
to the lake, and it still has a beach. So I would
There's
go
still
out there and
sanding.
I would sit at and I'd go kayaking, and so, you know, that's the thing. That was my piece. So that those are the places that you have to um, find for yourself. You know, what calms you, and usually it's in nature. It's not
Yeah,
staying in your house watching TV or looking at your phone. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
yeah.
It's
No,
really not.
we do have to find things that bring us peace and health because we're trying to promote the fact that there's a big wide world out there that kind of wants to eat you up, and I don't want to be negative here, but part of the show, part of what we're trying to bring out is a little bit of the reality of you can just kind of walk through life with the blinders on and
Yes.
not pay attention to a lot of this
And
stuff because you're like, well, what can I do anyways?
I'm too
And
busy.
that's true. I'm too busy.
I'm too
I got
busy.
family. I got a family to raise. I got work to do.
I gotta work.
Believe me, that was me. That I mean, it totally was me. I just didn't pay attention to a lot of this stuff. And the problem there is that what you're doing with that is you're I don't know any other way to say this, but you're just losing every day. You're losing in a lot of ways. Financially,
Right.
financially is what woke me up. when I realized that inflation and the government and the financial systems that we have, if you don't do something proactive, you're just losing every day. You know, you're losing money, you're losing value, and it's really the sort of the same way. And because the other thing that was me was I had let the stresses of what is considered normal daily life, raising a family, working a corporate 9 to 5 job, living in the suburbs, you name it. Wonderful things that everybody think this is the greatest thing, and it was just killing me off slowly because it was just the stress was just I wasn't managing it. I wasn't
Right.
forest bathing, and I wasn't grounding, and I wasn't sanding, and I wasn't
Right.
meditating, and I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't eating healthy,
Right.
and all that stress just broke me down. Literally, just broke my body down one day,
Right.
and I had to realize I had to build myself back up and realize, man, I need to really take care of this body, and stress is the number one reason that we get sick,
That's right.
diseases and sick, and it can be traced back
Bitterness,
to all of it.
unforgiveness does too. Yeah.
Yeah,
Your
and so we have to
emotions.
find some way
Mhm.
to we have to be proactive. We just do.
We do.
And so
Yeah.
part of what we bring up this stuff is to say, look at this stuff going on. I don't really we don't really necessarily know the details of it, and we don't have time to be like investigative journalists. We're trying to just highlight a few things, talk about them a little bit, and say,
Right.
look, what do you guys think about this? And that's like step one. That's like part. That's the introductory of what we want to talk about, and then we want to talk about, okay, what can we do about it? And we've kind of repeated here that our mode necessarily isn't to protest. It doesn't mean you
No.
can't. We
I
talk
mean,
about,
you
maybe
can't
you can
protest after the
focus.
fact. You can't. You can't protest against a structure. And as you were talking, you know, and telling your story, you know, we grow up in a structure, right? Like a certain structure that was put before us with our parents. So our parents learned a structure. This is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to go to school, get out of school, maybe go to college, maybe not, maybe start working, uh, get married, have children, and there's this whole structure set before
Yeah,
us, right? So this was the structure, and these are the things you're supposed to do. So that was a structure that was passed down generation to generation. Probably in the 60s is when that structure started to not be that structure, because that generation started having divorces, started having, you know, like people saying, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. That's when protests actually started to come about the most, was in the 60s, definitely against like the Vietnam War, against certain things. So in the 60s is when those people started to say, hey, listen, we don't want to follow this structure that you are forcing upon us as to be the structure of life. So, I mean, and that's here in America. Okay. And of course, there's you go back to any, tribal situation, there's still a structure and a hierarchy. Like they still have a structure that they follow that carries down, et cetera, et cetera. So it really is, this is how we do this. This is what we do, kind of thing. And I think in the 60s is when it kind of all broke apart, of going, hey, we're not following this
well, that's
anymore.
because they were all on Mary Jane. No, no, it was
No,
the
that is
free.
not why.
And because they were listening to music and dropping
They were
acid.
rebelling. They started to
Yeah,
rebel against the structure system,
yeah.
which is
Well,
not what. And I'm bringing this up just to say that, of course, then our generation comes around because we're the children of that generation. So, my age group, your age group, we are the children of that generation. So we were taught a different structure. We were taught that, well, if you get married, it doesn't work out, you can get a divorce. You know, hey, this is acceptable. All these things are acceptable. And now you look at today's generation, and like everything is acceptable, like every single thing, which I'm not saying that that's bad, but I think that each generation brings their own what's acceptable and what's not. And now what's not acceptable is actually the traditional view. Like now to them, that view
Right.
is not acceptable. So if you want to be, you know, monogamous and, you know, whatever, they don't accept that. It's the weirdest
Right.
thing. I mean, it's like turning the tables. So whatever we put out in the world and whatever, you know, it does have a ripple effect. So we have to be careful on how we do these things and what we're doing. So cloud dusting right now, I don't think is a good ripple effect. I don't think that's good. Cloud seeding, whatever. I called it dusting, sorry. But um, that's going to have a ripple effect. Just like, you know, any, you know, people system, you know, everything, you know. So where's your guidebook, you know, to all this? Because if everything is allowable and acceptable, then, you know, now what do we got? That's called chaos, is what it's called. If everything's acceptable and everything's all right, then we have chaos. And I don't think that a government should tell us how we're supposed to act. And I think that our forefathers who wrote the Constitution wrote it in such a way as to not be controlling, as to not be, as to give us as much rights. You know, it's in the Constitution. But a lot of people in this generation don't know the Constitution. They don't even know what it says. They're not teaching
Yeah.
that in classes anymore. Like what? So that's where we're going with this. It's like you all need to, everything is cyclical too. Like like these things that were not allowable, like in biblical times, this has happened before. Like, and people don't recognize that. They think, oh, the decline of human morality. Well, no, it's done that before.
Everything's repeated. I mean, history
It's
repeats.
been wiped out before. Just letting you know, it has happened before, way before you, 2,000 years ago. You know, like and 3,000 years ago. You know, every civilization comes to this end. Like the morality goes out the window, and then everything happens, and for some reason, uh, the the whole thing gets, you know, almost set back to original. It's kind of weird how it happens. It's
Well,
like
we are in this 100-year
it's weird. It's weird. And if
cycle.
you all think that this, you know, there's nothing, there's that term, there's nothing new under the sun. Here's the problem. Stop affecting my son.
Oh, I
Do
like it.
not affect my son. I need the sun. So
You will catch
y'all,
the Sandy wrath, the wrath
don't
of
be
Sandy.
darkening my sun. It's not cool. It's not
That's not
cool.
cool. All
So
right. So
anyway,
speaking of not cool, let's transition over to let's see
I don't know
where
what
I
my
got
point
this on
was on
here.
that. Sorry. I went on
We're
a
going to talk about the
trail.
Baltimore Bridge collapse. There
I
is
am
a
talking about the
new
Baltimore Bridge collapse.
investigation. So
Yeah. So
what do
I
you
went
got?
on I went on my own chemtrail just to let y'all know. So so yeah. So why is the FBI now? Let's look.
Bring us up to speed.
Look
What's
at
going on with
it.
that? That's been kind of out of
Going
the news. Do you want me to
on with it.
share?
Yeah. So the
Uh,
AP News, which is, you know, been out forever. The FBI is conducting a criminal investigation into the Scott
really?
Key Bridge. Yeah. Now,
Who's getting
um,
busted?
the person was not authorized to discuss the details of the investigation. Of course not. They have to keep
Yeah.
that under wraps. Um, they were aboard the ship, of course, after it happened. Um, and so they're not going to comment further now. Okay, so criminal, um, criminal is a whole different thing than civil. The massive. Okay, let's see. I'm going to get down to the meat of this article. Um, they are focusing on the electrical power system. Okay. The ship experienced power issues moments before the crash, as in evident that showed lights going out and coming back on.
Right.
Is so that information in the engine room will help us tremendously. But see, they're not going to release what happened, right? So did somebody in who was in there turn it off? You know what I mean? Like what happened?
Or if you
So
can
if
hack, like if somebody could hack into the system right remotely,
about the
and
safety, right? Broke loose. Okay, so it's become criminal. So that tells you something. I can stop sharing. Um, so it's criminal. Oh, where did you go, Scott?
here I am.
So now the FBI is saying it's criminal. So that means that somebody actually did something nefariously. Sorry, but that is what that
They're
means.
looking into that. Yeah, I mean,
And
that you're either going to pin it on the captain who they screwed up
that's what they
somehow.
said. They said in the article that the captain. Oh, hold on. Did it say
Yeah,
right
I
there?
remember something about
It
that.
said, will take decisive actions to hold responsible all entities accountable, including the owner, charterer, manager, operator, and the manufacturer, as well as
Yeah.
any. And I mean this. Okay, so I deal with investigative stuff and subrogation a lot, so I know about
What's
subrogation.
that
So what
word?
it is,
What's that mean? I don't know what that means.
subrogation? It's when um, say an insurance carrier covers somebody and something happened to said vehicle or house or something, and something else caused it to have a failure, then you can go after the manufacturer. You can go
Oh,
after
okay.
other
That's
parties
okay.
regarding whatever happened to it, because it wasn't
Subrogation.
actually the owner of the device or the
Right.
owner's fault. You know, it was a
Okay.
manufacturing defect or it failed. You
Right.
know,
So
and they
instead
have
of
to figure
the
out if
captain of the
the
ship being like an heir, they can
yeah.
subrogation would be you can go after like the manufacturer that maybe caused the electrical failure
Right, or that
or the
there
equipment.
or there weren't enough preventative measures for that
Oh,
not to
so the
happen.
owner, like the owner of the ship or whatever,
Right.
could be sued
If
for
they
that.
didn't check every, there's lots of safety checks
Well,
on
like
things.
Boeing gets like when all these aircraft things, like people sue
Oh yeah,
Boeing because they didn't have enough safety in building the damn airplane.
right, right,
Wasn't that the mechanic that checked it, he checked it,
right,
it looked good to him, but in a structural defect, that was
right.
Boeing, and we
So
know that that
so like
happened to
in a
Boeing.
big ship like that, there should be an overriding safety measure for that not to happen. There should be a backup generator, a backup something that happens to where they
Right.
won't lose um, you know, they're guiding the ship. They're driving the ship. There should be a backup measure. That there should be preventative things, safety checks, et
So
cetera,
I
et cetera.
suppose it's normal, like any kind of accident. This is kind of normal, right? To kind of
Yeah,
go
but
through all
if it
these
was just
things.
an accident, the insurer of that carrier and of all that stuff would have just said, "Okay, we're going to pay for the bridge. Like
But
we're
even
going to
like a
pay."
car accident, don't they have to kind of check some of this stuff? Like, if the driver wasn't drunk and they looked at obvious
Right,
things, then,
right.
you know, they eventually continue to look and they'll,
Right,
because
but
this
see,
happens in car crashes, right? Where,
it's been how many weeks now, and so if them opening up a criminal investigation means that they
there
already know kind
something's
of
going
what.
on. Yeah.
Right, right.
Right.
So so it, it could come. They hired the wrong employee and he caused it, or like I said, there you can hold criminal somebody who caused those deaths because of things that you didn't do,
Right.
that were
Right.
preventative.
And this
So,
is kind of normal, isn't it? Is this kind of normal investigation for something like this to kind of move through these
not
phases?
criminal. I told you, civil and criminal are different. So, criminal means that somebody had something
Mm,
nefarious.
right.
Just saying, like
Or
in
negligent?
business that
Isn't
I
that
do, if they find a person, they charge them with criminal felonies, criminal things. So
well? And
criminal is
there were
different,
deaths. There were deaths involved in this, so people
right?
would be
But
charged
criminal
with
means that there was intent.
right.
So just saying.
They don't know yet, though. I mean, no charges have been filed on it,
Well,
but
they
this is the
opened
investigation.
the investigation,
Right.
right? But that's what I thought I found so interesting, though, that they used the word criminal. So that means that they think that there's something criminal. They think something happened on purpose. Okay.
I
So
wonder if they could, if that even still means, could be a foreign adversary. I wonder if it would fall under this, that maybe hacked into the ship or, influenced or
well,
did
the ship was
something.
going to Sri Lanka. That's where it was going. Um, so mm,
You know what's interesting?
it's here in our port, by the way. Did you know that
Oh, they towed it into
they
Chesapeake
towed it
or
here?
into
Yeah,
Norfolk or whatever.
that's what I heard. That's what I
You
heard.
know, you know what's interesting is I follow a guy named Peter Zion. Quite interesting. He's a geopolitical, I don't know, theorist, or people pay him to consult on what they're going to open up a business in a certain area of the world, like what's happening in that world. So he knows a lot about wars, geopolitics, all that kind of stuff. And he said that what's interesting about this is that the port of Baltimore should be a very busy port. Unfortunately, it's actually not. And so this won't cause any sort of disruption to, uh, you know, goods and services because they actually don't use the port of Baltimore that much. And
Yeah.
he's like, it's kind of weird because he's a little bit of a historian. He's like, it should have been, and it should be the perfect port. It's in the perfect location. And I can't remember what he said for what reason was is that they actually, other ports are busier in that area, which I just thought was interesting because I would have thought that that would have been a big port that would have messed things up. And
Okay,
apparently
I'm wrong.
it's
I'm
not.
wrong. It's still there. It's still in Maryland. Maybe I heard
Yeah,
that
they're
it's.
still cutting it. I remember last
Yeah.
thing I
Yeah.
saw,
Sorry.
they were
Yeah, I
cutting
wanted to
debris of
make
the
sure I
bridge,
was.
and
Yeah. I want real facts on that. So
yours is just a ghost
it's
ship.
actually in Maryland still. We have seen an influx here in our port, and everybody's come in this direction.
Yeah, they might
So
have
even
transferred.
the cruise ships are now coming out of here instead of Baltimore, and that's why they're trying to get the channels open really quickly, is because they're losing revenue. So, um, because more people are having to come here. We're having an influx of traffic, and I mean, I've seen it already. So
Wow.
I've met people that are from all different places now because just around town because they're here because of that happening.
Are you talking
So
about tourists that are on,
no,
like,
no, like
oh,
railroad guys and
oh.
ship container people and Homeland Security.
Why are you hanging around the railroad guys?
I'm not
No, just checking.
hanging around railroad guys.
Railroad
No,
guys, the shipyard guys.
I
You like
met
the
a
rough and
few.
tough guys, huh? I met a
I
few.
met a few.
She likes bad boys.
Hey now,
Hey
hey,
now,
why are you going personal on
I'm
this?
getting all
Why are you going
personal because
personal?
I'm joking
Why are
you.
you going personal? So, so anyway, I just think it's interesting about the bridge having a criminal investigation. Sorry. Um,
That's a
and,
it
and
was a big deal. Now it's the war in Israel.
yeah,
I found that really interesting. Now we're kind of free floating now, free topics. We got
we're
a few
free
minutes left.
floating. Well, hold on, I'm not finished. Hold on.
Oh, she's
Let me
not
finish.
finished. Watch out.
No, no, because when I okay, I live in an area that has bridges and tunnels everywhere.
Yeah,
So we can't just have
bridges and
rogue
tunnels.
ship container
Ships going
vessels.
off.
No, because I mean, they hit the side of a tunnel. I'm driving through it. Hello, that's not
Hello.
good. It's not good. It makes
I don't want to die in a
it
tunnel.
makes
A
you
flooded tunnel would be like the worst way to go.
right,
No, I
right.
don't want to go
So,
that way.
so there's a fear factor there. You know what I'm saying? Like in my own backyard. Now I got to go, okay. Like yesterday, I went and walked at Fort Monroe, which is across the bridge here. And saw all the ship container vessels coming through, you know, and it says, get one wrong guy on that vessel who who wants to harm our area. I mean,
So in a
it's
way, I
crazy.
really thought about this, but in a way, this sort of has this sort of 9/11 vibe. Um,
Yeah.
that I think the biggest thing, and again, I used to live in that area. It's been a long time in D.C. Baltimore area, and that the bridge that people travel over, that being down is probably the biggest issue. Yeah, it's like I
Yeah.
said, it's not so
Now they
much the
got to go
port,
2 hours around. Yeah, they have to make a two
yeah.
hour trip
I
to
mean,
make.
and to think of that
Mhm.
massive disruption, and that's kind of what terrorists or people that want to
Right.
cause chaos in America, could certainly do. And it's interesting that okay, now here's another thing. I hadn't thought that was a thing, and now apparently you can just run ships into bridges and cause chaos or whatever, and it killed people. People died,
Yeah.
and
See, and so what is that? That's what I want to bring up. What's bad about that is that now somebody who has a criminal mind can go, oh, that was easy. We could do that. You know,
right.
like if you know the infrastructure of a bridge, which unfortunately you can pull up plans to bridges all over the place to find out where where everything's at underwater because we're so you know whatever braggy about how we made it and engineered it and blah blah blah. You can pull up plans for that,
Oh yeah.
online. Like our technology is so fast, you could do it. You could get someone to get it for you. I'm sure. You know what I mean? So we have to think of those things as to how to protect our country.
Right.
And that, I mean, look at what it's done. I mean, now everything's coming down this way. Well, what if they attack this area, and do the same thing? Then those where the ship's going to go then there's more cost to that because there's more fuel needed, right? So
it's
those who
it's
are talking about climate change all the time, there goes more diesel that you're having, you know,
right.
fuel that you're having to use to get us our goods. It's actually going to have a ripple effect on our economy, on our getting any type of goods from overseas if we needed to. But if we were self sufficient, like our country was
Yeah.
and should be, then we wouldn't have to incur those charges at all.
Well, we saw through
If we were
COVID
still
how.
living off the land, it goes into this whole thing. Why did whoever shut down all of our farms in the Midwest? You know what? So there's been a bigger plan here for a long time, to disable our country, and I didn't mean to
Slowly.
go into this topic. I'm just naturally going there because you guys have to look at everything that works together, the systems that are working together. Why would they have our farmers, sell their land to them and just pay them to not farm? Why? Where's the why to that? You know, can you think of why? So why, Scott? Why do you think?
Well,
Just
there's the more logical one that they would explain to. I don't even know. I mean, I sort of like they don't want overproduction, and
which is
yeah.
insane, which is not even a real answer of to why. Because the why is that we want to import things from other countries. Why?
Uh, it's cheaper.
Why?
It's more higher quality. Probably not.
Wrong. Nope.
Nope.
No, it's all about
It weakens
politics.
our economy.
It's back to politics. Who is our ally? Who are we giving money to? It,
Ukraine.
it all has to do with the footing of our government with that country, other country. You know,
Right.
oh, I'll agree with you on this thing, as long as you are providing us that we can send you our bananas, okay?
Yeah.
Um, that you'll
It's
buy our bananas, then I'll agree with you,
and
right?
this is the whole thing about crony capitalism. It's like it doesn't matter what business you're in. If a politician and a business organization get together to favor whatever thing they're doing, you're going to
Right.
lose. If you're a competitor to that, you're going to lose, and that is the sucky part. It's like
Well,
let's just be
okay,
all be on an even playing field. But no,
right.
we're going to
So look,
get lobbyists that are going to get together on a certain business. They're going to go to government and give them this little pathway, this little legal thing that's going to give them an advantage. And this happens over and over and over,
and
and
then we
we
have
lose.
control of something in that country. Then we have control, because if we say, oh, if you don't do what we're saying, or you don't agree with what we're saying, we're not buying your bananas anymore.
Yeah,
It's going to shut down your production. It's going to shut down your government's income. Hello, there it is.
a lot of people
I hate
say
to say it's that simple, but it is.
when I tell people these stories like this, some people will say, "I know that's the evils of capitalism." I always push back and say, I don't think it's capitalism alone. I think it's crony capitalism. I think capitalism left on its own would work itself out because if you've got a so would work itself out. But what happens is when you get the government involved, in picking and choosing little parts to help out, then you have this corrupted, inefficient marketplace that can really take advantage of people. If the government could not be involved with business somehow, I think we'd
Right.
have a much more even, fair
And and
system.
and you know me, who wants to go one step further, right? So, okay, you got the country that's giving us the bananas. We're giving them money. Well, because the bananas were cheap, that they sold to us, right? Now
Yeah,
we're going to inflate the price on it, and then we're going to tax our own citizens who already paid for that whole deal. Hello.
yeah. It, like
Hello.
like when you say it, when you look at it like that, it's like, well, why would our government do that? Well, because
Because
they're
they're
making a
making money
deal.
on it. They're
Well,
making money on it.
they're making money on it, or
They're making on Who are they
it's
making the money from? Hello, everybody. Hello, truth bomb. Who are they making
hello.
the money from? The people that are controlling this country. Ha.
Well, I think you're right, and
Who's that? We don't know.
this is part of the show. Part of the show is really looking at what I call the global elite, the people that pull the levers, people in organizations that pull the levers that are above our governments, that are above the president. That all this kind of that influence this kind of stuff, secret shady stuff behind the scenes. Some people call it the deep state. I just call it the global elite because it's government power and business
That's right.
money, and
But
power and money. Forget
but
about it.
see, this
That's
is
going to
why
trump everything.
they're banking on, which they are banking on us, by the way. Our social security numbers are their clout. But anyway, they're banking on us to be dumb. So that's why they're giving us the worst food, the sugar addiction, the alcohol addiction, the marijuana industry, which is insane. They want us to all be high, okay, on something.
Yeah.
Let's just get them all high on something,
Right.
sugar, alcohol, drugs, whatever, and then they don't have to think, and then they
Right.
just can continue the consumerism.
Right.
Let's throw some designer clothes at them that look like the last year's designer clothes, but you know we're gonna put our big name on it. So I know I'm going all around today, aren't I, Scott? I'm doing the whole around the world thing right now,
Go around
which
the
is
world with Sandy.
which we all fall into some part of this, right? Like if you think about the things that you love, like today, what things do I enjoy and desire and love? Well, me personally, I love going on a wine tour. I love wine, so I'll go drink wine, you know. And sometimes I have done too much of drinking the wine, right? So, that's a problem. And then I think about my coffee in the morning. I have to have my coffee, right? So, right. So again, that's something that is like gives a stimulant type of emotion too. So, I mean, you have to think of these things. Like, I want to be up in the morning and then I drink some wine to be down at night, right? So I am falling into the same, and I'm being real here and authentic. I mean, I am guilty of falling into the structure,
Well,
and
and
so
it's
what
like
do I need to do to
society.
pull out of that
It.
structure?
How many TV shows, movies have you watched where there's no alcohol or caffeine in there, no coffee, none?
Right.
I mean,
Right.
it is
Or
it's
sugar.
like
Or
or
sugar.
sugar, and it's worshipped. Like it's like at the end of the day, all the guys on TV and they're drinking their whiskey or you know whatever stereotype there is, but that's like the word, like getting us, dumbing us down. It's embedded into our culture, not by accident.
No. No.
You know,
And
we
then
think it
and then
is,
think about the
but it's
sugar
not.
addiction feeds into the healthcare system. So
Oh my God,
the sugar addiction then feeds into the healthcare system. The any addiction feeds into the healthcare system. And so there you have it. We have
it
all of
is.
these products to help us lose weight, do the, bring your A1C down. Oh my God, if I hear it, bring your A1C down one more time, it's sang about, for goodness sakes,
Sang about.
you
They got
know.
jingles. They got
I
jingles.
mean, stop eating the sugar.
Well,
like,
and the thing is, we're
like,
addicted. Like I'm
dude,
addicted to
stop eating
sugar.
the
It's hard.
carbohydrates and the sugar that's behind the A1C problem.
But this is the
Okay,
thing, it isn't, it's not easy. We get
it's
that. I
not
mean, it's,
because
I've got to
because
spend
of
more
the
money.
structure.
I've got to go to a special grocery store and buy organic. I've got to, and on the way to my organic store is
You just
every
throw it.
fast food thing that has the big signs like, come eat this cheeseburger. Um,
Right.
and this is, and then again, that's meant to be like, they don't want us to be healthy.
This
They,
is a structure.
the global elite, whatever, you know, as long as big medicine, big government, big business can can make more money and stay in power and control, they'll do anything. They don't
Right.
want people like us talking about this. They don't want people like, going off of alcohol and caffeine and marijuana so that we think clearly and we can like, oh, maybe this isn't maybe this isn't as true. Maybe that thing I'm hearing on television or from the government, is that really, but if you're dumbed down, you're not going to question that. You're not going to think about it. It's like, okay, whatever. Light another joint.
I was a teenager taking Dexatrim and Vivarins. A
Oh yeah.
teenager.
I remember
A
those days.
teenager because I wanted to fit into skinnier Levi's.
And back then we'd read magazines, right? And you'd look at the magazines and you're like, oh, I got to
Right.
be like the
I want
magazine.
a skinnier size of jean, not realizing that my body was never going to be that size because my body structure isn't that size.
Right.
So that's the thing. It's like, we're taught it from a really young age, really young, from the very beginning. Cereal. Remember when we were kids, how Cheerios were the deal? I think like Cheerios. Like I think it
Cheerios.
was Cheerios, and then Captain Crunch after that. I hated
I don't.
Captain Crunch
Oh,
because
see,
the
now Cheerios were
burned
boring
the
because
top
they
of
didn't
my
have
roof.
enough sugar. Now Captain Crunch had a lot of sugar. Cheerios were boring. Like they didn't have a lot of sugar in them. It's like
I
the
like
more
Honey
sugar the
Nut
better
Cheerios.
when you're a kid. Oh God. Well, Honey Nut Cheerios. Yeah. Okay. Now we're
Honey,
talking
well
yummy.
now, right? But back then, you could put sugar on the Cheerios. You could
Well, yeah, we did too. We'd
down the
pile on the
sugar.
sugar. We drink the sugar milk after we finish the yeah.
Exactly. So
Well, the
so
thing
we're
about it is
taught
it's
from
normal.
a really young age, a
We are, and
consumer.
it's not like, so you know what I thought? I was like, in like, let's say in China or in Russia, you always see, again, it's probably propaganda, but you see like they're indoctrinating their kids with hate America and all these things, starting them off really early. And we look at that and like, oh, how dare they could do that, right? And yet, in the same way, we're all doing the same thing. We're indoctrinating our children with just the way
Right.
society is. Again,
Right.
it's not like
We shouldn't hate
it's
another
not.
culture. Right. We should not hate another culture.
No, I
We
mean
should.
we look, but we do look at like all their kids are being brainwashed, and it does seem a little more overt. Like they kids, I don't know, just they make it seem like they're really putting it on these kids. We're a little more subtle, but this is the problem with this. Is that when I say that, it's like we don't really come out and say we're indoctrinating, but we are,
Well,
and we
guess what?
do.
Our country, and I hate to say it, makes us hate ourselves.
Yeah,
Our
it's not.
country makes us hate ourselves.
I think it's
You're
Western
not good
country
enough. You
too.
don't look good enough. You're not using this product. Your hair doesn't look like this. You're not this size. You can't wear those clothes. You're not carrying the right handbag. You don't have the right shoes. You don't drive the right car. You don't
Yeah,
measure up to anything. Your career is trash. You don't have a good career. Uh, what's the first
and
thing that
it's
somebody asks you when they meet you?
what do you do?
What do you do? Well, I do a
Right.
lot of things. That's my answer. I do a lot of
But isn't
things.
it? But to me, it's the subtlety of that, right? It's like it's not that they don't come out in the commercial and say you suck. They come out there and say, "Hey, are you having a rough day? Look at this brand new shiny car. It's got all these bells and whistles. How cool is that?" Right? So,
And yeah,
what are you going to think? You're going to think, "Oh yeah, I got a shitty car. It's like I must be a loser. I need that car." That's the subtle. That's the smoke screen, right? They don't sit
no
down and say
wonder
like,
why we have so many psychiatric disorders.
"Yeah,
It's because of our environment. It's because of our air pollution. It's because of the things that we
media."
eat and drink. Okay. So the psychiatric division, what do? They now sell you a pill. So now you're not good enough. You have to have a pill to take
They'll
it
even
because
give you
you're
the pill. They'll
incorrect
even
stuff.
give you the damn pill.
Yeah, that's nice of them. A free sample.
They'll give you the damn
So,
pill and say, as long as it knocks you out and makes you not think and
here's a
not
free
question
sample.
things, I'll just give you the pill and we'll
Free
subsidize it.
sample.
The government will
So,
subsidize that. All right, we could
so
go on and on about this. I think
we
we could
can
go
go
on
on and on,
and
and that
and
is
on.
why Scott and I are working on this Freedom Life 3.0, and to bring to realization and all the things that you can do to not follow that system, to kind of wake up and what is it can you do for yourself, because really it comes down to that. What can we do for
Yeah,
ourselves at this
yeah,
point?
yeah.
Well, we need to change some habits. We need to change some thinking. We need to change the way we do some things.
Right, and
So,
we need to work together as a community
yeah,
to help each other
yeah,
and to help each other stay accountable. It's hard to break these habits. Not only are they physically addicting, like sugar and alcohol, like nicotine,
right.
but society, you're going against the grain. You're going to stand out. You're going to be like the black sheep, and human beings don't like that. We want to fit
Yeah,
in, and if you go against the grain, you're going to be an outlier.
right.
Well, okay, what is it worth to you? And if
Yeah.
you don't understand that this is happening, maybe this show will bring some like, oh wow, I didn't think about that. Yeah, maybe need to think about that because I know I didn't. I had the blinders on for a long
Well,
time until I.
people stay at the first level. I like that you came up with this Freedom Life 3.0. You told me why it came 3.0,
Right.
but for me, we do need to go 3 levels up. I think
Yeah,
that's a good way to think about it.
three
Freedom
levels
Life
up.
3.0, you need to go 3 levels up. You can't look at just the face value of something. You need to go 3 levels up to figure it out.
That's
What's
good. Yeah,
kind
go
of
up the levels.
maybe happening,
Three
you know,
levels up.
3 levels
Awesome.
up.
Well, let's we're gonna end it on that. Three levels up. I love it. All right, folks, share this out. Watch the
Share
replay.
it
Give us a
out.
comment. Let us know
Please
what you think of the
comment,
show.
say hello. Yeah.
Say hello, and
Say hello and tell us what you think. You know.
we'll see you next week on Truth Bomb.
Bye, everybody.